The rescue that changed everything. The city of Arvex was glowing under its twin moons. The towers made of crystal glass reflected the pale blue sky above. Many species walked its streets, some with wings, some with scales, and some with glowing eyes. Among them was a single human. His name was Jack Carter. Jack was tall, quiet, and curious. He had come to this alien world as part of a peace mission between humans and the Arvan Empire. Most aliens just stared at him. A few whispered, some even mocked him behind his back. But Jack didn't care. He was used to it. He just wanted to see the galaxy and help people where he could. That day, Jack was walking through the lower district of Arvex. It was dark and cold there, with broken lights and empty streets. Suddenly, he heard a sharp scream. He turned a corner and saw something shocking. A young alien girl with glowing purple markings on her skin was running from two armed guards. She looked terrified. Her long white hair was flying behind her. She wore royal clothes, now torn and dirty. One of the guards shouted, "Stop her by the Emperor's order." The girl stumbled and fell to the ground. The guards raised their plasma rifles, ready to fire. Jack didn't think. He ran. "Hey!" he shouted, stepping between the girl and the guards. "She's just a kid." The guards yelled, "Move aside! Human! This does not concern you!" But Jack didn't move. The plasma blast fired, and Jack covered the girl with his body. The energy hit his back armor. He groaned, but stayed on his feet. More guards arrived. They surrounded Jack. One of them recognized him. "This human is from the diplomatic crew. Arrest him." "What?" Jack gasped. "I was just helping her." "She is royal property," the lead guard said coldly. "And you touched her." Before Jack could explain, they slammed him to the ground. Metal cuffs locked around his wrists. They didn't even look at the girl. The alien girl stared at Jack with wide, glowing eyes. She wanted to speak, to shout, but fear held her still. She whispered, "No, not him." But it was too late. The guards dragged Jack away. Later that night, in a grand palace high above the city, the girl stood silently before her family. Her name was Liari, a royal daughter of the High House of Arvan. Her father, a powerful noble, glared at her. "You left the palace without permission, and now a human has touched you in public," he said, his voice cold like ice. "This is an embarrassment." Liari looked down. "He saved me." Her uncle, tall and dressed in black robes, added, "No one can know what happened. The human will be punished and forgotten. And you will stay locked here until further notice." Liari wanted to scream. The human didn't do anything wrong. He was kind. He saved her life. And now he was going to suffer in her place. She looked out the window, eyes full of guilt. Somewhere down below, Jack sat in a prison cell, bruised, confused and alone. He didn't know why they locked him up. He didn't know who that girl was, but something inside him told him this was only the beginning. And in her quiet room, with tears rolling down her cheeks, Liari made a silent promise. "I'll get him out, even if I have to break every rule in the galaxy." Chains clinked every time Jack moved. The prison was built deep under the alien city, cold, silent, and made of black stone. The walls were wet. The air smelled like metal and mold. There were no windows, no sunlight. Only the buzz of force fields and the dull voice of the guards passing by. Jack sat in the corner of his cell, his back against the wall. His shirt was torn, his lip was bleeding. The last beating had been just hours ago. He still didn't know what crime he had committed. "I saved her," he whispered to himself, his voice dry. "Why am I in here?" A voice came from the shadows. "You touched royalty," the voice said. "It belonged to the prisoner in the next cell. They don't care about truth down here, only about power." Jack looked toward the voice. A pale hand reached through the bars. "They call me Marex," the stranger said. "I was once a scientist, now I rot." Jack didn't respond. He was too tired, but Marex kept talking. "I heard your story. The guards laugh about you. They say the human tried to be a hero. They don't realize what a mistake they've made." Jack lifted his head. What do you mean? Marex chuckled. You're not just a prisoner anymore. You're a secret, a threat, and secrets in this place and don't live long. Above the prison, in a tall silver tower, Liari sat in silence. The nobles celebrated in the grand hall, music and laughter echoing down the corridors. No one spoke of the human. No one cared. But Liari couldn't sleep. She had heard nothing about Jack since he was taken. No trial, no visitors, not even a name on the record. She knew something was wrong. In the middle of the night she wrapped a dark cloak around herself and slipped out of her chamber. She had a plan. She crept into the old servant quarters, deep in the west wing of the palace. There an old woman named Thena lived. Thena once served Liari's late mother, who had died mysteriously years ago. She was said to know secrets the palace buried. Liari knocked gently. Thena opened the door with tired eyes. You shouldn't be here, child. I need your help, Liari said. I need to know where they took the human. The old woman's eyes narrowed. That man saved your life. Liari nodded. Thena sighed and stepped back. Then listen carefully. Your uncle ordered his imprisonment without trial. That cell, below, the city, is where things go to disappear. Even your father doesn't ask questions. Liari's heart dropped. Why? Thena pulled out a map from a cracked wooden box. It showed an old access tunnel to the ancient prison beneath the capital. They don't want truth. They want silence. You go down there, child, and you may never return. I don't care, Liari said. He didn't abandon me. I won't abandon him. Back in the prison, Jack woke to a sharp sound, metal scraping against the bars. It was a young guard, silent and cold-eyed. He opened the door without a word and pulled Jack out roughly. Where are we going? Jack asked. The guard didn't speak. He dragged Jack down a hallway to a small white room with a scanner and two tall nobles waiting. One of them was Liari's uncle. I want to ask you something, the uncle said, his voice like poisoned silk. Why did you interfere with palace matters? Jack stood straight. She was in danger. I protected her. The noble's face twitched. You touched the royal bloodline. For that you'll disappear. But don't worry, we'll tell your kind you died in an accident. Jack clenched his fists. You're cowards. The noble smiled. No, human. We're rulers. That night Jack was thrown back into his cell, bruised and weak. But just as his eyes began to close, a small light blinked under his cot. It was a note, scrawled in alien script, with a single sentence. Hold on, I'm coming for you. Jack stared at the message. Somewhere in the darkness, hope returned. The palace library was silent, too silent. Liari stood between two giant bookshelves taller than most ships. Old records were stacked in silver boxes. Dust covered forgotten names. Her fingers ran along the spines of ancient scrolls until she found one with a royal symbol carved in red, the laws of silence. She pulled it out. Her hands trembled. This wasn't just a book. It was a book never meant to be opened. Inside were names of people, aliens, nobles, even guards, who had vanished under the rule of her uncle. No trials, no reasons, just a note beside their names, sent below. And now next to the newest entry she saw the words that made her heart stop. Human interloper level 6, silent protocol, no return. Liari covered her mouth. She now knew for certain Jack was not in some prison waiting for justice. He had been erased. He was in a place where the Empire sent people to disappear, forever. She clutched the book tightly and hid it inside her cloak. Someone was coming. She heard soft footsteps behind her. It was her younger cousin Veen, just 13 but sharp as a blade. He raised an eyebrow. You're not supposed to be in this wing, he said. I could say the same about you, Liari replied, trying to sound calm. I saw the lights. Thought it was a ghost. Veen smirked. But it's just you, chasing myths about a human prisoner. Liari froze. He knew. I won't tell, Veen whispered. But if you're going down there, you'll need more than a book. He tossed her a silver data chip. This map hasn't been used since the War of the Fifth Moon. Good luck, cousin. Later that night, deep inside her chamber, Liari activated the chip. A hologram lit up above her bed showing a forgotten path below the palace, a path to the hidden prison level no one talked about anymore. Level 6, the ghost cells. The path was blocked by ancient codes. Only someone with royal blood could pass. She looked into the mirror. Her hands were shaking, her eyes were wide. She wasn't just a noble girl anymore. She was Jack's only chance. Meanwhile, in the prison, Jack woke from sleep, cold sweat covering his face. The lights above flickered, then went dark. That was the third time in one day. The other prisoners were quiet tonight. No coughing, no whispers, just silence. He sat up and looked at the note, again. Hold on, I'm coming for you. He didn't know how, he didn't even know her name, but someone out there hadn't given up. The only question was, would help come in time? Suddenly he heard scratching beneath the floorboards. Jack leaned closer. A small crack opened, and a tiny flying drone slid through. It hovered for a second and then beeped 3 times. Jack reached out. The drone zapped his fingers. He flinched. Then, it flashed a message. Escape begins soon. Be ready. Then it zipped back through the crack, vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. Jack stared in disbelief. He wasn't alone. Someone was risking everything for him. Back in the palace, Liari opened a small metal box hidden under her bed. Inside were things her mother had once given her: old jewelry, forgotten medals, and one small device with a blinking blue core, a royal override key. It could shut down doors. It could erase guard logs. It could turn off cameras for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's all she would have, but it would be enough if she was careful. She took a deep breath, tied her cloak, and whispered to herself, I'm not running away from this. I'm walking straight into it. And she walked out the door, heading for the underground. As the wind howled through the empty streets above the prison, deep beneath the surface, in a forgotten hallway filled with rust and shadows, the countdown had already begun. The underground. Tunnels were colder than Liari expected. Her royal boots slipped on the wet stone as she walked deeper into the forgotten path under the palace. The map Veen gave her glowed softly in her hand, guiding her through the twists and dead ends. Above her head, the Empire celebrated another peace day. While she walked through the skeleton of its secrets, she passed broken cameras, rusted gates, and warning signs that read, Do not enter, Seal Order 043, Death to Trespassers. She didn't stop. At the end of the tunnel, she found what she came for, a locked panel marked with old Arvan script. Service gate to level 6 ghost cells. She pressed her royal override key against it. The light turned green. A soft hiss echoed. The gate opened. Inside, hidden between the old cells and forgotten rooms, a figure waited. Vox, a half-mechanical outcast who once served as a royal engineer, had been hiding here for years. He was tall, thin, and had glowing red eyes from a failed experiment. Most people feared him, but Liari trusted him. You came alone, Vox said, his voice echoing slightly through his metal jaw. I had no choice, Liari said. I need to break someone out. Level 6? He asked. She nodded. He shook his head. Even I wouldn't go that deep. You have to help me. Vox hesitated, then turned toward a desk filled with parts and blueprints. You'll need 3 things: a jammer, a cloak field, and someone stupid enough to walk into a death zone. Liari looked him straight in the eye. I'll be the stupid one. He grinned. All right, princess. Then let's build your disaster. Back. In his cell, Jack couldn't sleep. The scratches on the wall had turned into deep cuts. His back ached. His skin was pale from no sunlight. The guards hadn't spoken to him in 2 days. No one had. Then he heard it again, the buzzing sound. The drone was back. It hovered in front of him and dropped something small into his lap, a round black disc. He picked it up. A whisper came through. "This is a one-time shield. It'll hide you for 20 seconds. Use it when the door opens." Jack blinked in surprise. The whisper continued. "And don't die before I get there." He smiled slightly. "Liari," he whispered. "You're crazy." 2 levels above, Liari was ready. She wore a dark jumpsuit covered with Vox's cloaking wires. Her long white hair was tied back. Her face was covered with a black scarf. In her hand was the jammer, built from scrap but strong enough to short out a full prison hallway for a few seconds. "Once you're in," Vox warned, "you'll have 5 minutes. After that, alarms will come back, and so will the guards." 5 minutes is all I need, she said. Vox handed her a small device. "What's this?" she asked. "Plan B. Detonator. If they catch you, don't let them take you alive." Liari looked at it, then dropped it on the ground and crushed it under. Her boot. "I'm not here to die. I'm here to save someone." Then she stepped into the darkness. Inside level 6, the air was thick. The lights flickered dimly. Many cells were empty, some with claw marks on the walls, others with only silence inside. This place was not just for prisoners. It was for people. The Empire wanted to forget. Liari moved fast, her jammer cutting the power in short bursts. She slid past security cameras and scanned each cell. Then she saw him. Jack. He sat on the floor, barely moving. She pressed a button, and the force field dropped with a spark. He looked up in shock. "You?" "No time," she said. She pulled him up. He winced but stood. "I thought you were." "I'm here now. Move." They ran. Behind them, sirens screamed. Red lights blinked. The jammer had run out of power. Guards were coming. They turned a corner and saw the exit door. Sealed. Jack looked at Liari. "What now?" She took out the override key and pressed it against the lock. "Denied." She froze. Jack took the black disc from his pocket, the one from the drone. "Let's try this," he said, slapping it onto the control panel. A shockwave burst through the metal. The door opened, and the hallway behind them exploded in fire. They dove through the door just in time. The fire sealed the way behind them. Breathing hard, Jack turned to her. "You really did come for me," he said. She looked at him and smiled, her face covered in ash and sweat. "I always keep my promises." The tunnel shook above them. Smoke trailed behind as Jack and Liari stumbled forward. The blast had knocked out the guards, but it had also collapsed half the escape route. Cracks split through the walls. Lights flickered. The air smelled of burning wires and dust. They had escaped level 6, but they were not free yet. Jack coughed. His legs were weak, and his back burned from old wounds. "How far are we from the surface?" he asked, panting. "Too far," Liari answered, checking her map device. "We have to pass through the old transport bay, full of patrol units. If they see us, it's over." Jack leaned against a wall. "Then we need a new plan." Liari bit her lip. "There might be one, but it's dangerous." Jack chuckled. "We just escaped a death prison. Dangerous sounds normal now." They turned down a narrow tunnel, one that Liari wasn't sure still worked. At the end was a sealed hatch, marked with old Imperial runes. "What is this?" Jack asked. "It's a maintenance corridor," she said. "But no one uses it. It hasn't been touched in years. My mother once told me. Rebels used it during the first uprising." Jack smiled faintly. "Your mother sounds smart. She died protecting someone, just like you tried to do for me," Liari said quietly. Jack looked at her, but she was already opening the hatch. They crawled through the passage, tight, dark, and full of rust. Rats scattered ahead of them. Strange cables wrapped around their feet. They didn't speak. Every sound echoed like thunder. At the end of the crawl space was a vent. Liari peeked through it and froze. Just on the other side was the main guard post. 5 armored officers. Plasma rifles ready. A commander barked orders. Surveillance screens glowed behind him, showing the wreckage Jack and Liari had left behind. They were being hunted. Liari pulled back and whispered, "We can't go through there." Jack nodded. "Then we go around." She pointed to a side duct, small enough for one person. Jack looked at her. "You fit. I won't." Liari didn't answer. She reached into her belt pouch and pulled out a royal emblem chip, the last tool she had. "Take this. It has my seal. If you reach the port, show it to the right person. They'll protect you." Jack frowned. "Wait, what about you?" "I'll distract them," she said, her voice calm but her hands shaking. "They know me. They won't kill me." "You're going to surrender?" Jack asked. "No," she said. "I'm going to buy time." Before he could stop her, she slipped out of the vent and walked into the guard post with her hands raised. The room went silent. The commander turned and stared in shock. "Princess Liari?" "I came to report a serious crime," she said. "One of your men betrayed the Empire." "And who is that?" the commander asked slowly. She smiled. "Me." Meanwhile, Jack used the side vent to crawl above the room. He heard everything. The soldiers surrounded her, rifles aimed. But Liari stood tall. "I freed the human. He saved my life once. Now I return the favor," the commander growled. "You've broken at least 15 high laws." Liari nodded. "Good, then make it 16. She slammed her hand onto a control panel, disabling the lights for a few seconds. And in that exact moment, Jack dropped from above. He landed hard, rolled, and tackled the nearest soldier. Another turned to fire, but Jack grabbed his arm and twisted it. A rifle slid across the floor. Liari kicked it toward Jack. He grabbed it and fired once, not at the guards, but at the wall. Boom! The blast opened a hole into a back tunnel. "Run!" Liari shouted. They both sprinted through the smoke, leaving the guards coughing and blinded behind them. Now bleeding, sweating, and half limping, they reached a lift at the end of the tunnel. It had dust on it and old cables, but it still worked. Jack hit the switch. As the lift shook and rose toward the surface, Liari finally sat down. Jack looked at her, breathing hard. "You didn't have to come back for me." Liari smiled. "You didn't have to jump in front of a plasma blast." He grinned. "Guess we're even now," she nodded. "Not even close." As the lift reached the surface and opened to the night sky, they saw the stars again. But those stars were not peaceful. Patrol ships were flying above. The whole city was looking for them. They were out of prison. But the real escape had just begun. The cold night air hit them like a wave. Jack and Liari stood on a rooftop near the city's outer wall. Below them, alarms wailed. Spotlights moved across the buildings. Dozens of patrol drones flew overhead, scanning everything. Their faces were on every alert board. The entire city was hunting them. "We don't have much time," Liari said, checking a stolen device. "We need to reach the edge of the blast field. Beyond that is open terrain. No patrols, no cameras." Jack coughed. "And how do we get there without flying?" Liari looked down. A long, narrow cargo rail ran from the factory district to the outer gates. It moved fast. No guards, no doors. Just wind and metal. "If we can jump onto it," she said, "we can ride it to the wall." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And if we miss?" "We fall 50 feet, she replied. "Onto steel." Jack sighed. "Great plan. Let's do it." They sprinted across rooftops, ducking drones and leaping over pipes. Liari moved like a shadow. Jack followed, his old injuries screaming, but his will stronger than the pain. Then they saw it, the cargo rail, moving fast below. Jack grabbed her arm. "We'll have one shot." She nodded. They backed up, then ran, and jumped. They landed hard on the top of the rail. Wind roared past them. The ride was rough. Every bump sent sparks flying, but they held on. Behind them, several drones spotted movement. Red lights flashed. Targets locked. The chase began. Drones opened fire, lasers scorching the rail. Liari threw a small device, EMP grenade. It exploded mid-air, frying 3 drones instantly. But more were coming. Suddenly, the cargo rail began to slow. Jack looked ahead. "There's a checkpoint!" A gate was ahead, guarded by turrets. If they stayed on, they'd be blasted to ash. "No choice," Liari shouted. "We jump!" Jack grabbed her hand and they leapt off the rail just before the gate. They rolled onto the ground hard. Liari screamed. Her leg twisted badly. Jack pulled her up, arm around her shoulders. They limped into the shadows of an old supply station. Inside was dark and quiet. Dust floated in the air. They hid behind crates, breathing heavily. Jack looked at her leg. "It's broken." Liari clenched her jaw. "Just wrap it. We keep moving." "No," he said. "You rest. I'll find a way out." But before he could go, she grabbed his hand. "Listen to me," she said. "If they catch us, don't fight for me, just run, please." Jack stared at her. "I'm not running again," he said. "If I die, I want it to be for something real." "You already did," she whispered. "You gave me a reason to believe again." Suddenly, doors burst open. Flashlights cut through the dark. Voices shouted. They were found. Jack stood between Liari and the light. Weapons ready. He had no gun, just his fists, but he would fight anyway. Then, before the guards could shoot, a loud explosion rocked the building. Boom! The ceiling cracked. One of the outer fuel tanks had blown. From the flames walked a figure. Tall, glowing red eyes, cybernetic arms. "Vox, you two really need to stop almost dying," he said. He held a large weapon custom-made. Jack laughed. "You came back," Vox grinned. "You still owe me a favor." With cover from Vox, Jack pulled Liari into a hidden corridor behind the crates. They ran toward a backup tunnel Vox had built long ago. Drones chased them, shots flying, but Jack blocked Liari with his own body. One shot hit him in the shoulder. Didn't stop. Another blast singed his side. He still didn't stop. They reached the exit, an old steel hatch that led to the surface near the wildlands. Vox turned to cover the door. "I'll hold them," he said. "You go." Jack hesitated. "Go," Vox shouted. Liari opened the hatch. Cold wind rushed in. Freedom was just beyond. Jack turned and gave Vox one last nod, then vanished into the night, carrying the girl who once lived in silk, now wrapped in blood and hope. They collapsed in the grass miles away under a sky full of stars. Jack's breath was ragged. Liari's eyes were full of tears. He had taken the blasts for her. He had saved her, again. She pressed her forehead to his and whispered, "You weren't just a human. You were my miracle." The sun rose slowly over the wildlands. Golden light touched the hills, the trees, and the edges of the broken road leading away from the Empire. A soft breeze blew through the grass. The air was free here. No sirens, no drones, no walls. Far, from the Empire's claws, Jack opened his eyes. He lay under a shelter made from metal sheets and tree branches. His body ached. His shoulder was bandaged. His arm was in a sling, but he was alive. And next to him, so was Liari. She sat quietly, wrapping cloth around her bruised leg. She looked different now, no longer the royal girl in shining clothes. She wore a travel cloak, torn gloves, and her silver hair was tied into a rough braid. Her markings glowed faintly. She saw Jack open his eyes and smiled. "You survived," she said softly. Jack groaned. "I'm too stubborn to die." She chuckled. "Where are we?" he asked. "On the edge of the forgotten zone. No sensors, no satellites. The Empire doesn't track anyone out here." He looked around. "It's peaceful." "For now," she replied. For 3 days they rested. Jack taught Liari how to use a water purifier. She taught him how to read the stars in her people's language. They ate simple food, shared stories, and sat by the fire under the alien sky. They didn't speak of the past much, because both knew the pain was still fresh. But slowly, they started smiling again. On the 4th night, Liari looked at Jack across the fire. Do you regret it? She asked. Regret what? He replied, jumping in front of those guards, coming back for me, taking the pain. Jack shook his head. No, I'd do it again, every time. Liari's eyes glistened. I spent my whole life locked in a palace, pretending to be perfect. But when I saw you fall in chains because of me, something broke. And I didn't want to be perfect anymore. I wanted to be true. Jack leaned closer. You are. You're more than your blood. More than your name. She looked down. Then why does it still hurt so much? Jack took her hand. Because it mattered. The next morning, a small ship landed near their shelter. It was old, scratched, but fast, Vox's gift, hidden from the Empire. A message was left on the screen. No empire lasts forever. Fly while you're free. Vox-Jack looked at Liari. So, he said. Where to? She smiled. There's a colony on the far moons. They don't care about names or laws. Just work and peace. We could start there. He nodded. We? Liari turned serious. Jack. I don't want to go alone, and I don't want to be alone anymore. He stepped forward. You're not anymore. They boarded the ship together. No throne, no army, no titles. Just two souls, broken and rebuilt, flying into a future they would shape together. Months later. In a small farming village under purple skies, the people spoke of a strange human and a glowing girl who arrived from nowhere. They worked hard, helped others, and lived simply. Some said she was once a princess. Some said he was once a warrior. But those who saw them together saw only this. Two people who had no reason to trust, yet trusted anyway. Two people who were hunted, but still chose to save instead of hate. Two people who found each other in the darkest place and built a life in the light. One evening, under a quiet starlit sky, Jack sat with Liari by the riverbank. The wind was soft. Her head rested on his shoulder. He whispered, I used to think saving you was just a moment, but it was the moment that saved me. She looked at him and smiled. I broke all the rules for you, she said, and I'd break them all again. The Empire forgot him, but she never did. And somewhere out there, in the stars, far beyond judgment and borders, a new vow was made. Not in gold, not in war, but in love.